What's good, folks, family, friends, loved ones, enemies, frenemies, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, people of Middle Earth, to another episode of Disguised Coverage, the only podcast that gives you an equal amount of blueberries in each muffin, presented by the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. That is One Pipe Pizza. Find the online menu in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you are listening to this show on. I am your host, Anthony Prohaska. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro2_ANT. Find me on Blue Sky at proant. No underscores there, just PROANT. In this edition of Disguised Coverage, it is playoff time for the Buffalo Bills. I debated doing several different topics, episodes for this week. YouTube and the NFL are so wonky with film now and everything, so I've kind of skirted that a little bit, although I will be dropping a film-based episode of Disguised Coverage later in this week, focusing on a very specific topic for the Bills, of which I am very excited about, and I think they'll need come playoff time. But this episode, we will be diving into what you need to know for the Buffalo Bills versus Jacksonville Jaguars Wild Card matchup. As those regular listeners, viewers know, we are normally live on Tuesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern. Anytime we shift, it's to accommodate a special guest. And I do have a special guest that will be joining me in this episode. It is someone who, at this point, everybody who watches this show, if you've tuned in randomly at one point, you've probably seen him one of the 75 times that he's been on the show. He continues his streak for the most appearances on the show. He is one of the best, and I mean this sincerely, when it comes to breaking down anything and everything football related. And the benefit for this episode is he happens to be a Jags fan, and he happens to know this team inside and out. So with that being said, welcome to the show, Mr. JP Acosta. As you folks know, NFL analyst for Pushing the Pile and CBS Sports. JP, Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Thank you for taking the time to join me. Welcome back to the show for how your record-setting appearance streak that I don't even remember where you're at now. Thank you.
I'm going to be honest. I did not think I was going to be here playoff time. I'm going to be so real with you. After the Rams loss in London, I have fully resigned. Like, this Jaguars team isn't going to be a playoff.
Man.
Be a competitive team. It's going to be a fun team. But I said before the season, like 9-8 was going to be how they finish the season. And I thought they'd be, like I said, a competitive team. And then they went on the best win streak in the NFL. They're one of the hottest teams in the NFL, and everything has started to really fall into place. And now I'm sort of like, you know what? I am very much someone who emotionally hedges against rooting for my own team and putting things out into the world that root for my own team. I'll lean into it for the rest of the playoffs, however long that is. Like, I think this is a good team.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny you mentioned that game, and I've been doing so much tape work on the Jags last week and this week, just for different projects and pieces that I was working on. And it's so funny, that Rams game, I forgot about it until I went back into the tape. And I remember, like, not that it was some like crazy, sacrifice, but I got up early. I was so pumped for that game. Jags went in 4-2. The Rams were the Rams, but the Jags had played Seattle tough that previous week. And I was a firm believer in Seattle then, as a lot of people were then and are now. And I was like, oh, I'm excited to see them go against the Rams. Yeah. And they just got housed like 35-7. Yeah. 35-7. And I was so disappointed. Like, and I did the same thing. Like, well, another season for the Jags. It kind of is what it is. And then they go into the bye week, come out of the bye week, and then it's still kind of like they beat the Raiders in overtime, and it's like, you don't feel great. And then they have almost that wonky loss to Houston in Houston, but then you have the Jakobi Meyers trade that comes into the fold, and all of a sudden things just start clicking with this team. And I think they went from kind of like an under the radar, forgotten about piece to a team that's gotten a lot of traction and talking about as the season has gone on, especially when you go to Denver and you beat them in Mile High by 14 points and a really good performance on both sides of the ball. But yeah, this is a game where, as a football fan, I'm excited for it. I think there's several really good matchups on both sides of the ball. They're just fun from a football perspective. We'll obviously get into that in this game, into this episode. As a Bills fan, I'm so superstitious, and you know this. Like, there is nothing in me that could ever be like, this is the matchup I want, because you're just walking into a jinx, and I don't want that. But the Jags were towards the top of the teams that I didn't want to face for a variety of reasons that we're going to get in this episode. So as a football fan, I'm excited. As a Bills fan, I'm nervous. And I kind of really don't know what to expect. And some of that is because of how the Jags are built and where I think their strengths and weaknesses are. And then that also ties into how the Bills are built and where their strengths and weaknesses are. It's a really fun kind of like matchup of skill sets, strengths, advantages, and schemes on both sides of the ball. I know you can kind of make a case maybe for another game. I think this is the best matchup of Wild Card weekend. Packers-Bears should be fun from a rivalry perspective. Them playing the third time. We'll see how healthy Love is and what goes from there. But I think Bills-Jags is like a premium matchup this week, and I'm super pumped for it.
It feels like I guess narratively, it feels like the Bills are sort of, I wouldn't call them the reigning champs, but they are the ones who have been the deepest into the playoffs out of everybody. They are the one outside of the Steelers. They are the constant in this version of the playoffs. It feels like this Jaguars team, while not a lot about them is new roster-wise, this type of Jaguars team feels new. They haven't won they haven't won 13 or more games since 1999. Like a dominant Jags team is something not a lot of people are even used to. Like that 2017 team only won like 10 games. Like they're housing teams now. And I think a lot of people will point to this back half of the schedule and go, oh, well, they played Indianapolis twice. They played Tennessee twice. But they absolutely crushed the Chargers. They went into Denver and put 34 points up with relative ease after the first two drives. So
one of the Broncos touchdowns in that game, the Broncos only put up 20. One of those was like a ridiculous drop in the bucket teardrop throw from Bo Nix kind of on the move right to Sutton, which was a great throw, but that's a high degree of difficulty. There's a very easy chance that doesn't get complete. And the Jags hold the Broncos to like 16 or fewer points in that game. It was a sincere, dominant performance from the Jags in that game.
Yeah, from wire to wire, it was one of the worst Broncos like passing defense performances of the season. And it was a Jaguars team that did it. So it feels like this Jags team has gone from like plucky underdog, like, oh, the Jags are good again, to like, no, like this team could make the Super Bowl. And it feels weird to say that because it's the Jaguars.
Yeah.
But they have as good of a shot as anybody in the AFC.
It's so funny too, like that you add in like the history, and obviously the Bills break the playoff drought. They lose to the Blake Bortles led Jags. But I've said this before to you. I've said this on the show. One of the first memories I have as a Bills fan, as a little kid, it's before the Music City Miracle. It's Bills versus Jags, and I think like the 96 playoffs or whatever. And Natron Means was sick. He was blacked out visor, black gloves, black rubber elbow pads. Dude was a monster. And all I remember is like, it was a Saturday, 12:30 kickoff. And I remember like, we never missed any Bills games ever. But my family was almost kind of like, it's this expansion team that doesn't matter. The Bills are the Bills. And the Jags came into Buffalo and beat the Jags. And so like there's the little playoff pieces with that. I'm really excited for this game. I'm excited to talk to you about this game before. And I want to mention this. So I have the comments shown up on the stage. I will be starring anything and saving it till later as much as possible. JP has been kind enough and gracious enough to join me tonight, even though he already had a prior commitment later this evening. So I need to get JP out by 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. So no messing around with comments. We're going to try not to sidetrack, even though we talked in the green room for 7 minutes already, because that's just what we do. Especially, and I also want to say that because I feel like when you come on, folks in the chat know, like, okay, here we go. 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Let's go. We can't do that normal marathon this time. I want to make sure I hold true to my word and get JP in and out on time. I will bring up the super chat because it's straight to the point. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for the super chat. And the comment is, Anthony, the Bills are 1-0 since you left your tree up after New Year's. I think you know what you have to do. I didn't need any more of a push to keep the tree up past New Year's, but yeah, I'm staying the course. I'm debating whether or not I should trim my beard or cut my hair, even though the playoffs haven't started yet. And so I'm in between on that, but yeah, the tree will stay up. We're going to ride this wave as much as we physically can. All right, JP, let's dive into our first segment or topic here. For those of you playing at home and joining us live, feel free to put your answers into the chat. Questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, anything and everything you got. put it into the chat. Normally I bring it up as we go forward, but as I mentioned, I'm going to save everything to the back end of the show and we'll get through some stuff after JP goes. That's a cool comment that Natron was Darth Vader before Darth Vader. That's a super He was absolutely. All right, JP, you are the guest. I'm going to let you go first. The most under the radar piece about the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So I think a lot of people lose sight with the Jaguars because of Liam Cohen and because Trevor Lawrence, because of all the picks, because, Travis Hunter was playing receiver for this team and losing sight of like how good this defense is. And how good it's been under Anthony Campanile, first-year defensive coordinator. Cody Alexander put out a recent story that's awesome about how the Jaguars and Anthony Campanile pull from every single major coaching tree and have created this perfect medium of what a modern NFL defense is. So to put some numbers behind it, the Jaguars this season are third in the NFL in EPA per play allowed on defense. They are only behind the Seahawks and the Houston Texans. They're sixth in the NFL in success rate allowed. They are a legitimately very good defense from top to bottom. I think a lot of issues, a lot of worries that I had as a Jaguars fan after Travis Hunter got hurt was who was going to step up in the secondary. Because I thought Travis Hunter would play more. If Travis Hunter was going to play more receiver than corner, who was going to step up? Greg Newsome has sort of been up and down, but Jarian Jones has effectively benched Greg Newsome. And it's been Buster Brown, Jarian Jones, and Jordan Lewis as your three corners. Jordan Lewis has been fantastic in his first year as a Jaguar since coming over from Dallas. I was a little concerned about his fit because he and Jarian Jones are both nickels, but effectively Jarian Jones has been arguably their best outside corner this season, even better than Travis Hunter. So I think this defense does so many things well. It starts up front for them, and I think it gets lost because Josh Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker are very good pass rushers. This team is a house defending the run. They take pride in defending the run. Their linebackers are really good at defending the run. You miss out on it because Devin Lloyd has caught 5 interceptions this season, but he is a monster run defender. They want to funnel everything back to the inside. They do some really cool run stunts with Trayvon Walker. And then once they get you into passing situations, that's where they really start to mix in all of the weird stuff they do. They play a lot of quarter, half, a lot of cover 6 for those that don't know quarter, half. That is, you play cover 2 to one side, most likely the weak side, and then cover 4 to the side with the most receivers. But they can spin to it from anything, anywhere. They've spun Jordan Lewis to the deep quarter. They've spun Eric Murray back. Eric Murray's been good when he's been healthy. And I think there's just so many good things happening for this Jaguars defense at the right time. Talked about Jarian Jones stepping up. Antonio Johnson has effectively been the enforcer hammer in the secondary. Buster Brown has made timely plays. You're just getting all this good play at the right time, and they're starting to find a lot of combinations that really work for them.
Oh, that's so well said. I have a small player note that I'll give for my answer, but this was my real answer. Just the most under the radar piece is the Jags defense. And, we were talking offline and I alluded to it earlier. I did an episode last week with Cody Alexander talking about, NFL meta, offense, defense. And for those who watched the show last week, Cody and I spent about 10 minutes talking about Campanile and the Jags defense and how he spent time under Greg Schiano and under Jeff Hafley and Fangio and all those trees, and how he's borrowed a little bit from each and how he plays a little bit of each, but he does them all at an above average to good level, and he does them at the right times in the right situations. And it's so fun watching this defense schematically and what they do. I put out some of their pressure package stuff and what they're doing from a pressure standpoint. You've got true Brian Flores or Madden style engage 8 where everybody's rushing. Then you've got, we're going to show that and we're going to drop out. We're going to do that cover 0 low hole type stuff, however anybody verbalized, and we're going to pop out 2 random dudes into the low hole and play 0 with it. They'll do some non-traditional Tampa stuff or Tampa 2 invert, Tampa 2 robber type stuff. And then you're getting some fire zone stuff. You're getting some match mixed in. There's just so many cool things that they do defensively, and it's not, and the pressure stuff doesn't necessarily work purely because like, oh, well, they've got like great design or they've got dudes up front. I do like the design and I do like some of the guys they do or have. But I feel like so much of the pressure stuff works because of how multiple they are on the back end with the coverages they play in specific relation to their pressure package stuff and the blitzes, which I'm going to get into in a little bit later. But they're just, they're so multiple. They're such a fun unit. I love that you mentioned Jarian Jones. Two of my favorite plays, the pick against the Colts a couple weeks ago, where him and
they're on it. Like
dude,
it does not matter where Phillip Rivers throws that ball.
No, and it's super similar to a play earlier in the game. Rivers, I forget what quarter. I have it in my Twitter thread of the whole pressure package stuff that I built out this whole thread for. Rivers checks, and the Jags essentially bring it's cover 0, and I think they bring like 7 or 8 legitimately. And Rivers wants to go to Alec Pierce, but Pierce runs like a little slant as the solo receiver on the backside, and Rivers sends it deep. It's a miscommunication. But what the Colts do to the 2 receiver side is what they do again on that pick from Jones. And so Rivers comes up, he sees the same thing again later. He checks the protection, he calls out the receivers, and you see Jones and Greg Newsome communicate and say something. Oh, I got goosebumps thinking about it. And it's like 3rd and 4. Jones is in the slot, Newsome's on the outside. And right on the snap, Jones doesn't move, and he's locked into Phillip Rivers. Newsome on the outside, he's initially kind of opened a little towards the boundary. He turns and he hinges almost like he's playing palms, like he's reading number 2 to 1. Newsome jumps it from the outside, but he runs into Michael Pittman and gets obstructed. But it doesn't matter because Jones undercuts it immediately and picks it and takes it. It was just, I was like, oh, like they knew what was coming. They planned for it. That's a great trigger, great play. Jones has another interception, the game in Houston, I think on the first drive of the game with like the 14
cover 0 where he jumps it.
Yes, I think he jumps into to Jalen Knoll. I think he's just, although he's sitting again, waiting, watching Davis Mills. And as soon as Mills hits the top of his drop and sets and transfers, bang, trigger, pick. It's just so fun what they do. And I love that you mentioned Devin Lloyd. I think he, and I tweeted this out earlier today, him and Aluakon, I think are both a linebacking combination that make a lot of sense in today's NFL. And I think could be a combo and like body type build that defenses look towards going forward, because we're starting to get away a little bit. And ironically, the Bills are one of these teams starting to get away a little bit from like those really smaller coverage only style linebackers where you're like 220, maybe 225 soaking wet. You got to be able to come downhill a little bit. You got to be able to take on interior offensive linemen and take on pullers and take on fullbacks and all this stuff. And Aluakon and Devin Lloyd are both like 6'2", 6'3", 235 pounds, maybe even a little heavier, but they can move in coverage. They can function in coverage. But like you said, like they come downhill. Like if you're a running back trying to block Devin Lloyd, he's going to blow you the hell up. I cannot imagine in practice what the one-on-ones look like between Devin Lloyd and LaQuint Allen. I cannot imagine how dope that must be for them going at it. I would love to get me some Senior Bowl one-on-one linebacker blitz reps between Allen and Lloyd. Let me see them bang. But yeah, Lloyd and Aluakon, what they allow them to do in the middle because of how they play the run, how they play the pass. And then, yeah, I like what Murray's done on the back end as like an enforcer and just bringing that physicality that he had over Houston. The corners do their thing. And then up front, you've got, like Eric Armstead and Hamilton and, a rotation of dudes that isn't just, Allen and Walker. Yeah, it's a real quality unit. I didn't know if you were going to say the defense or not. Just in case you did, my most under the radar piece is Parker Washington, who I think is awesome. He's just so forgotten about. I loved him at Penn State, and I thought he could catch on in the NFL. And he's such a great fit with what BTJ is and what Meyers is, and then what Parker Washington is. And then if you had like what Brenton Strange is as their tight end, like it's just this fun, like top 4 pass catching group. But Parker Washington, I just think he's just so good after the catch. He's physical. I love his attitude. Like he really caught on for me at Penn State. And then earlier this year, when I was watching that Jags versus Texans game in Houston, he cooks Derek Stingley legit in man coverage a couple times, and he cooks Kamari Lassiter. And what's even better is after he does it, he lets him know about it. Like, I just love how he plays. He's a sandpaper dude. And I think he's kind of a forgotten guy on the offense with, what Jakobi Meyers has been. Brian Thomas, Trevor Lawrence. So Parker Washington is, my under the radar piece. My real answer, as I spoke on, is the defense. And it's just such a cool unit and such a cool group.
So fun stat about Parker Washington. Parker Washington is 5'9", but according to NFL Pro, he leads the Jaguars in tight window catches.
Oh, of course he does. Oh, that's beautiful. That just speaks to him.
He is their tight window receiver. He is their, like, F it, Parker Washington down there somewhere. Yeah. And it's 5'9" Parker Washington. The thing that stands out is he has huge hands. Yes. And he's able to go up and get the ball. And not only that, but he is sort of their guy on like man coverage in man situations. They go to Parker Washington. They go to, like, of course, Jakobi Meyers over the middle is going to be sort of their like bread and butter of the offense. But when they need a bucket on third down, they're going to Parker Washington.
He was getting buckets on third down legitimately against Derek Stingley, like putting him in a blender. And Lawrence was like, okay, I'm going there. And I was like, oh, that's real. And also to speak to your point, he's got 10 1/8 inch hands. That's 91st percentile for wide receivers. That's crazy.
And again, he's like 5'9".
Yeah.
He is the smallest receiver on the team.
He's 5'9" 5/8, 204 pounds. That's 9th percentile for height, 57th percentile for weight. But it's so funny that he's 9th percentile for height, 1st percentile in arm length at 29 inches, and then 91st percentile for hand size. Crazy.
And it's hilarious because, again, among all the big receivers the Jaguars have, Travis Hunter 6'1", Brian Thomas Jr. 6'3", Tim Patrick 6'4", Jakobi Meyers 6'2". It's 5'9" Parker Washington who is the go-to guy in contested situations. Part of why I was so excited for this game would be how the Bills defend this trio of receivers that feels like they all mesh together well. Mm-hmm. Like, it's now with Jakobi Meyers on the field, and we're going to get to Jakobi Meyers' impact a little later, but they have so many layers to the offense where, like, if you want to take away the middle of the field and those dig routes to Jakobi Meyers, they're going to hammer you with Brian Thomas Jr. speed outs. Yep. That is Brian Thomas Jr.'s entire game. He is a out route, double move, go route receiver. Like,
that happened so much in the Denver game. It was just like 7 yards speed out, 10 yards out. Yeah, every time.
It's the access routes. If you're going to give Trevor Lawrence that, he's going to hit the access routes. It's essentially what Jameson Williams did for Detroit. Like, he is essentially what Jameson Williams is. Jakobi Meyers, the in-between guy. Parker Washington does sort of the separation stuff from the slot. Brenton Strange has been awesome this year. There are plays where he's just housing defenders in the run game, but you can't leave a linebacker on him. No. So he's such a good, not only like man coverage guy against linebackers, but he is their check down. And he does a lot of good work after checkdowns. Like, he is really tough to bring down. They get Travis Etienne and Bashal Tutin involved in the run game. There's so many fun things about this offense, which, it makes it really exciting to like clip stuff on Twitter about the Jaguars offense. But this Jaguars defense is doing some really, really nice things too.
Yeah, 1,000%. And I think they were my most under the radar piece, like, hands down. But over the last, I feel, well, it depends on like who you listen to, but I feel like, I hate to use this phrase because it's so overused and I think it's almost like corny at this point, but like, the ball knowers like know about the Jags D, but I don't know if everybody listens to those people. Cause like, if you go as much as it is mainstream or like commercial sports coverage, like, sucks. Nobody on ESPN or NFL Network is like, let's do a deep dive into the Jags, like the Jags defense. Even, I'm sure for this game, I even sold my soul and did it for the graphic. Who did I put on the graphic for this one? I put Josh Allen and I put Trevor Lawrence. You know why? Because I wanted to put Josh Allen and Anthony Campanile, and then I was like, nobody's going to know who that is. And
they're going to be like, Allen versus Josh Allen. It's the Josh Allen Bowl again.
I should have done that. But ever since he changed the name, I'm like, is it still Josh Allen versus Josh
Hines Allen? We'll fudge it a little bit.
We'll fudge it. So I wanted to like do something like that. Yeah. Or even, Allen versus Allen. And I was like, I'll just do the quarterback stuff. And that drives so much of the narrative. And even for the Jags, like, Lawrence, I think is, and you'll know this, I feel like he's almost, maybe not anymore, but no, I think he still is. I think he's like close to like Dak Prescott level discourse, where you have people who are like, oh no, Trevor Lawrence is sick. Look at him pull these throws out. And then you have everybody else who's like, he's a bottom 10 quarterback. He sucks, blah, blah, blah. Like, the discourse for him is so so extreme, like the Dak Prescott like thing is, where someone like, no, Dak is teach tape, and then someone else is like, he sucks, he's the worst quarterback in the league, blah blah blah. But so much of that, and you have Travis Hunter, you have BTJ, even like Liam Cohen, like coming over and like what he did with Tampa and being here. And I feel like the under the radar piece, is that Jags defense. But yeah, they're just so fun to watch. That's going to be a huge chess match with what they are, what the Bills offense is. We're going to talk about that a little more in detail as we go forward on the show. JP, let's go to our next topic here. On the other side of the ball, the Jags offense, which we talked about a little bit, and the Bills run defense. It is no surprise. You and I have made jokes about this in the offseason. We made jokes about it in season. My favorite joke about the Bills interior is you did like the SpongeBob Miami Heat meme with the alley-oop, the lob, and like Patrick being LeBron or Dwayne Wade going like that. And it was like, oh, the Bills going to get another undersized 3-tech. Like, we know at this point the struggles about the Bills run defense and what they are in the spine, at the interior, defensive line, linebackers, safeties. Horrible yards after contact per attempt this year. They've actually improved. They're still last in the league with yards after contact per rush attempt at 3.93. But like 4 weeks ago, they were at like 4.3, which was like historically bad for the last like 7-8 years. No team has been over 4. And the Bills came under, but they're still bad. Poor angles to the football, just poor gap integrity at times. The run defense has been an issue. The Jags run game, first half of the year, metrically, they were pretty good. They were like a top 10 run game for advanced metrics. It was looking pretty good. They've tapered off a little bit. This run defense is the Bills' biggest vulnerability. The run game for the Jags, tapering off a little bit, sputtering a little bit. Is the Jags run game good enough to take advantage of the Bills' questionable run defense?
So I will add the caveat of, I'm going to say yes, but it depends on who's on the offensive line for the Jaguars.
Good
so
answer.
Cole Van Lannon has benched Walker Little. Like he has been flat out better than Walker Little.
Yes.
And the extension that they gave him. But I think Walker Little has also sort of like, they moved him to guard because Patrick McCarry has been hurt. And I think this Jaguars run game is good when Patrick McCarry and Robert Hainsey are in the game. With Robert Hainsey and McCarry in the game, all the movement stuff they like to do, all the toss plays, all the jet sweeps, and even like this Jaguars team, and it's really fun. Like, I'm tangenting off a lot, but this Jaguars team majors in split zone.
Yes.
They run split zone more than anybody else in the NFL, and they kick ass at it. Like, they are so good at split zone because they have Brenton Strange or Quentin Morris come over and absolutely deck the backside edge, and all Travis Etienne and Basil Tootin have to do is just ride the wave to the backside. But you only get that wave if your center and guards are creating that wall. So I think Ezra Cleveland's been very good. He's also been healthy. But I think the Jaguars games where they have been the least successful in the run game, if you want to go by success rate, their least successful game this season has been against the Broncos, who have Zach Allen, DJ Jones. Like, they have the Monstars up front, especially between the tackles.
And and Hainsey left that game for a little bit, and Jonah Monheim was in center, and he was getting pushed around.
Hainsey came in. Monheim, I was a little skeptical of Monheim because he was small, like, even for college standards.
Yes.
He moved from tackle to center. So, like, he was small for college standards.
Yeah.
And then also McCarry went out of that game. So you had Monheim and Walker Little next to each other, which isn't a recipe for success. But then if you want to go up, their second lowest performance by success rate was against the Titans. And they have Jeffrey Simmons, who is going to wreck any game that you really want to do up front. And then outside of that, like, you have the weirdness of the Cardinals, Jeffrey Simmons again, the Texans, and the Seahawks. Those are their worst games, like, running the football. Like, all those teams have impactful, like, defensive tackles. That is where I think if you want to beat this Jaguars offense, you have to get pressure. You have to cause havoc up the middle of the defense or the offense. You got to get pressure from between the tackles. It's got to be your DTs making plays, making splash plays, because they can effectively scheme out edges. They've done a good job in the run game of scheming out edges in their run game. So I think in this game, depending on who's up front for the Bills, especially at both defensive tackle positions, I think they can, but it also is relative to, is Patrick McCarry healthy? because if Mekari's not healthy and if he doesn't play, I'm a little worried about Walker Little in that scenario. But if Mekari plays, I think they can.
I'm going to give my answer, but based off what you said, I want to ask you a follow-up question. So how do you feel about your former, number 2 prospect going into last year, Deion Walker, right?
Yes,
he was your number 2? Yeah.
Preseason number 2.
Yeah, there you go. How do you feel about him kind of being one of the lead and focal pieces on the interior for the Bills, likely for this game? Is that in your fandom, in your heart of hearts, is that a matchup where you're like, oh, I don't want to face him? Or do you think like he can be had? Does he strike fear into you at all and kind of put a wrench in this plan?
I think so, because I think he creates havoc in his own like special way. He is not going to hold a gap. He's not going to like drop his knee and like dead leg a double team.
I don't think it's even physically possible for him to drop the leg.
I don't think it is. Like, that is the Iron Giant out there playing defensive tackle. What Deion Walker does is he goes backside. He gets a lot of backside cutoffs, or he'll be so quick out of his stance, the guard can't account for it.
Yes, he hits that quick swim and he just goes right over somebody. He's just standing there and you're like, uh-oh. Yeah,
that's his move. If he gets that backside swim on the backside guard, he's probably going to win that matchup. But I do think if you run at him, I think that's where you cause problems for him, because he can't go backside.
Yeah.
Because the run action's going to him. So I worry for the Bills from this perspective is if the Jaguars are running at Deion Walker and just forcing him not to cut off backside. If he's going to try and swim, if they're going to try and stunt into that blitz to try and get him moving laterally, you really you're kind of screwed with split zone, because if you're trying to like slant the defensive line opposite of the motion of the offensive line of the flow, you're just going to get washed out. But if you slant them to it, you're sort of opening up that front side, that backside cutoff, that ride in the wave that we talked about. You're opening up that wave. So I'm curious, like, how the Bills defend that action. But Deion Walker scares me for a unique reason, and that is because of all the backside cutoffs.
Very fair. And I'm in lockstep with you for most of that. I will say he surprised me with how good of a run defender he's been this year, like being able to like hold the point of attack to some degree. I still think it's more of a struggle for him that's being talked about in his game, especially like you have different people in publications naming him like the all rookie team and talking about how good he's been. He's made splash plays. And again, I think he's had a good year, especially considering he's been their one tech because Ed Oliver got hurt. And then Daquan Jones has been hurt, and they were putting Daquan Jones at the 3 and Walker at the 1, even when they were both in there. Because Jones is still more of a 3, even though he was their starting 1, because that's how the Bills build their interior, yada, yada. But he's held up better than I thought. But to your point, yeah, like if you were a team, and the Broncos game was a little rough for this, but again, the Broncos front is the Broncos front. If you're a team that could like run duo, for example, I'm just running duo at the Bills, left, right, and center. And I'm going to say, I'm daring Walker and Ogunjobi and TJ Sanders and whoever else is on the interior. I'm daring you to anchor. I'm daring you to hold the point of attack. I'm daring you to not let us drive you back 2 to 3 yards and then grab Bernard and grab Milano. I'm just running at them left, right, and center, if I can. And in tying into like answering this question, I'm so torn on it because I haven't liked what I've seen from the Jags run game down the stretch, but they also have been banged up a little bit. I've liked what I've seen from the Bills run D down the stretch, but the quality of opponent hasn't been great. And they're also banged up a little bit. And then you add in like where I think the Bills really are starting to make headway as a run defense. It's with all the run blitzing and with all the run stunts. And it's last year was more just like, okay, because the struggles this year versus last year are pretty much the same thing. Like they're too light, they're small in the spine, they're getting pushed around. It's a problem. The yards before contact are better. They're not getting completely blown out of the water, but they're getting displaced enough that the angles are too advantageous for the offense. And that's part of the reason why we're seeing such poor yards after contact, because guys aren't getting to the spot. They can only get a shoulder or an arm on a guy, and then you get poor angles from the second level and you're screwed. But last year it was just like, okay, we're going to put 8 in the box. We're going to gap out. We'll be fine. This year, not even that has worked for the Bills a lot. They have been unsound in their gap fits, or guys are getting knocked too far left, right, or back, and it's, compromising the fits, and there's an alley or a crease that's created, and then you have the missed tackles on top of it, which is arguably their biggest issue. But what's helped them down the stretch is more blitzing. It gets charted as run blitzes. I think they do a good job of run blitzing when they think a run is going to happen. But if they're blitzing and it ends up being a run, it's still going to get charted as a run blitz, even if it was a pass blitz. But I think they're good with, the corner blitzes, bringing it from the boundary, taking that defensive end and that defensive tackle to that side and stunting them both inside and slanting, and then bringing the corner clean off the edge. A couple pirate stunts the past couple of weeks, just doing really good things with getting some movement, slanting. That's what they have to be, because they're not a hold the point of attack, mitigate displacement, clog, let's play gap and a half, stack shed, read the running back's track and make some plays that way. They are built to be a penetrating, like, one gap front, and they still are that. And I think their best way to get it is with the run stunts and the slants and the run blitzes. But as you kind of alluded to with, like, the split zone stuff, that's really risk reward. Because if you run blitz at the right time or to the right side, you're golden. If you do it to the wrong side or at the wrong time, you're screwed. Like, say you're bringing everybody to that front side of the split zone. Guess what? Now the backside is almost just completely creased, and Etienne's just going to put his one foot in the ground, and he's through and to the second level. And that's part of what scares me too with the run game, is especially for a back like Etienne, who has juice on top of juice. If the Bills are off in their fits by a little bit, or if you're that guy who misses that tackle, or you take a poor angle, Etienne is going to make you pay in a heartbeat. Like, if he gets any, 2-2, good call. Like, if they get any kind of space, that's a problem. And the Bills have been so poor tackling. And then you add in, like, Jakobi Meyers is a great, like, run blocker. And, like, BJ will do a little bit, but the tight ends can do some stuff. You got Parker Washington. I clipped a play earlier today against the Broncos. They run, like, a little crack toss from gun into the boundary. I think it leads to the Jags, like, first or second touchdown. Etienne gets like a 20-something yard gain.
Yep.
Jakobi Meyers comes from the outside, cracks Jonathan Cooper to the point where he knocks him inside, and then Parker Washington seals off Jonathan Cooper. Crazy. And then after Meyers cracks Cooper, he makes his way upfield, and he shoulders Hufanga and stops him in his tracks. Anton Harrison is out in space. He bodies Riley Moss, and then Etienne makes a guy miss and gets like 20-something yards. But those creases are possible. And the Jags run game, even if it doesn't have this high success rate, they could be that run team because of Etienne, where, 7 carries on the day for 17 yards. And then all of a sudden it's 8 carries for 77 yards because Etienne busted a 60-yard house call because you weren't gap sound, or they ran duo and Etienne bounced it and your corner missed the tackle and he's gone, even though their corners have ironically been some of their better tacklers this year, including Tre'Davious White. But I'm really torn on the matchup because I want to believe in the Bills' run defense with what they've been down the stretch, but so much of it is tied to how much do they play on the front foot versus how much do they play how they played in the past, especially come playoff time, which is, we're going to come out and just kind of be our vanilla selves, and based on what you do, we'll adjust and we'll go from there. I don't know which they're going to be. And the Jags run game, it can be slow, stuck in the mud, and then bang, you miss something to Etienne or Tootin houses it and you're screwed. I'm really on the fence with this one. I'm so torn.
Bashal Tootin, I think, is like he's one play away from the big 50-yard touchdown he's been missing. Against the Chargers, there were like 3 times he got.
Oh my God, yeah.
Where he's getting up and he's mad because he knows he had like a 50-yard touchdown.
I felt for him. He was so close, and I was just like, oh, yeah, you'd see him be like, damn it. You could tell that
he's getting so close to a 50-yard touchdown, to a big touchdown. And I think that the way that they run their offense, again, with all the split zone, I think something else that they do really well is they get Robert Hainsey in space. Robert Hainsey, Anton Harrison, those are their space guys.
Good.
Robert Hainsey is one of the most fun players to watch as a puller. When they get him out in front, they do pin pull, and he leads them to the promised land a lot. But I do think something about this run game that'll really be something for the Bills to key in on is Trevor Lawrence as a runner. That's something that later in the season, Liam Cohen has really leaned into Trevor as a runner to the point where, like, if they're in the red zone, ETN leads the team in carries in the red zone. Trevor Lawrence has only one less carry than Bashal Tutin, and he has 9 touchdowns.
That Broncos game, they used a red zone touchdown, low red zone touchdown, but then also they used one from their side of the 50, and Lawrence ripped one off for 20. That's also, oh, we're right here, especially with how Bosa has had issues on the edge with contain and crashing down too much. I would lean it, like if I'm the Jags, total design runs, or at least read option element-esque, Trevor Lawrence, for me, has 8 to 10 carries in this game. I'm not including scrambles or anything else. Like, he needs to be a part. I think it could be a huge problem for the Bills.
And they've done something where I'm sort of like, I've won, but at what cost? They do the stick draw RPO.
Yeah.
Where that was the touchdown against Trevor's rushing touchdown against the Broncos was stick draw. But they had Hainsey be sort of like the fold guy to the backside. And all he's doing is just reading the numbers. And if he gets a good box count, like he is a legitimately like good athlete.
Yes.
Like he's like 6'6", 230, and he can run.
So I've been annoyed that he hasn't run more in his career. Like he's one of those dudes where I'm like, you're a good athlete. Like move, like do stuff. Use your legs.
Part of it was Doug Peterson trying to get him to do more of the under center, like 1, 2, 3, get the ball out. But also he's had a lot of shoulder injuries, the ankle injury. He's been banged up a lot. This has been the healthiest he's ever been, really. So you're seeing a lot more of that run game unleashed. But there's so many cool things about how the Bills can run their defense against the run for the Jaguars, and how many things that they want to try and slow down. Do they try and sell out and try and get some extra flow, or are you just hoping that like you can get some backside cutoffs?
Well said. So yeah, we're right here. I was again watching tape today, and I made it on. I was like, "Ooh!" I literally wrote. Let me pull exactly what I wrote here. I wrote in all caps. I wrote Trevor Lawrence run game, and then I wrote kills the Bills ? That's what I wrote. Yeah, it just we've seen them. I think back to again different type of athlete, but like just some read stuff in the Saints game earlier in the year with the Bills, like Spencer Rattler and Alvin Kamara, like was a problem for the Bills. And I'm like, I would mimic some of that. And I'm just attacking. And especially with, what's something else that the Jags do is not purely in the run game, but the Denver game was a good example. A lot of it is based with how Denver does their defense. But I thought the Jags did a really good job with motion, like identifying what Denver was doing, kind of manipulating him into some of their tells and tendencies. Although it would stress me out at times. I can't count how many times in that game Trevor's clapping to get the ball out and my heart would be racing. I'd be stressful. Like, snap the ball. Like it was stressing me out like crazy. But the Bills have struggled when like teams have like, it's been this way for years. Like the Dolphins do it a ton. Like they use motion to kind of create leverage for the offense and make the Bills defense be out leveraged. And I wonder, do the Jags lean into that a little bit? Like I'm sending somebody on I'm sending Parker Washington on a jet or a fly motion. And then I'm going read option with Trevor. And there's a good chance Parker Washington's going to pull someone out of the box. And then someone on the backside might crash down and it's Trevor Lawrence. Or with how the Bills ends are, Trevor, like you said, is a really good athlete. And I might take that one-on-one matchup in space, especially if it's on the backside. And the only thing back there is a receiver and a corner, and the corner is focused on the receiver who's kind of selling him off field a little bit. Oh, yeah. There's so much of this on that side of the ball, I think, is a really fun conversation piece. So I'm glad we were able to touch on that. The next piece, tying into what we both said, the most under the radar piece about the Jags, this Jags defense, Anthony Campanile, everything he does. Advantage, for those who don't see the screen, advantage, is it Anthony Campanile and that Jags defense, or does the advantage lie with Josh Allen, Joe Brady, and the Bills offense? Who do you think has the advantage on this high-level matchup on that side of the ball?
So this is going to be a cop-out, and I'm sorry. Can I make it a push?
Sure, go ahead.
Can I call it a push? Because I think there are some things that the Jaguars defense can do to poke holes in the Bills passing game specifically. But I also think there are things that the Bills can do to attack the Jaguars. So to start with what the Jaguars can do, something that's really popped up for me when watching the Bills is teams have really started to undress their protection schemes. And they've really started to poke holes. I noticed it first when they played the Falcons. And then everybody started to do what the Falcons did, which is the Bills are a 3-man slide team. They're going to slide 3 to one side, play. It's basically like you're playing zone coverage to one side, man coverage to the other. You're going to zone up one side of your protection, and then you're leaving the backside guard or tackle to be in man coverage. What the Jaguars can do, and we talked about some of their blitzes. One of my favorite blitzes that they do is they'll bring Devin Lloyd from depth, and he'll just hammer the backside tackle. Like he is going full on, like they are picking him off. Yeah. So some of the things that they really like to do when it comes to those slide protections, they ask a lot of Josh Allen in those scenarios. And Josh Allen has done a really good job of diagnosing and figuring out what teams like to do pre-snap to post-snap. But I do think there's an opportunity to really sort of, he can be got when it comes to like some of the zone pressures that they'll bring, especially with backside guys off the edge. The problem with that is if Jordan Lewis or Eric Murray is the backside guy blitzing and he's the free runner against Josh Allen, I'm a little worried because it's not just about pressuring Josh Allen. It's about getting him on the ground. And you have to bring a linebacker. Like you got to be over 215 pounds if you want to try and tackle Josh Allen. It's like the height requirement on a roller coaster. So I'm a little worried about that when it comes to the Jaguars. I also think the Bills have an opportunity to sort of use Josh Allen's legs as a threat. And that's something that the Broncos did with Bo Nix against the Jaguars. The Broncos really could not run the ball under center against the Jaguars. But what they did to really start moving the ball on the ground was they went in the shotgun and they would just RPO it. And they would force Trayvon Walker or Josh Hines Allen to freeze on the backside because you're worried about the run threat of the quarterback. And that opened up the other lanes. You'd go, something that they would do is they would go essentially 4 strong, 3 receivers and a running back to one side and in the backside. And they would just do that. They do a zone read and there's a bubble or something tagged onto it. So you're basically trying to manipulate that backside tackle or backside end into making a decision. Something that the Jaguars have really tried to do to sort of mitigate that is they'll do a lot of read stunts.
Yes.
Where they'll stunt Trayvon Walker inside and they'll pop Eric Armstead back out.
Yeah, that little like read pop. That little pop stunt or whatever it's called. Yeah.
So I'm a little curious how much the Bills lean into the RPO and sort of gun run game. Because to me, they are a much better team under center running the football.
Yes.
But if you're trying to go under center against this Jags team, it might be a little bit more uphill sledding because of just how good and how big they are through the middle of the defense.
Oh, yeah, that's super fair. Like I don't want to run, into Hamilton and Eric Armstead with like his length and like the physicality they bring on the interior. Like it's so interesting from a Bills run game perspective, especially from an under center spot, just kind of start with, because what they are is, depending on the week, depending on the matchup, they are a duo and a mid-zone weak type of team. And they'll run them from the exact same look, almost the exact same presentation. Sometimes they'll dress it up with like a little jet motion across, but usually it's going to be, you're going to have one receiver on the backside, front side, you're going to have a tight bunch or a loose bunch, or, some kind of 3-by-1. It might be an inline tight end and a hipped off tight end and a receiver. It might be an inline tight end, Khalil Shakir and Tyrell Shavers, some kind of 3-by-1. And they'll stay in that, or they'll jet motion one of those offline dudes and send them across the formation. And then they'll go mid-zone weak or they'll go dual. That is the bread and butter. And I wonder about because the Bills' O-line is good and they're a good unit. They're good collectively. I like Osiris Torrance in this game to help generate some push and running behind that right side with Brown and Torrance. I think they can get push. But so much for me is tied to, and again, I'm going to talk more about the run game in one of our later segments. Like, if they can't get the run game off the ground and they can't win on early downs with the run game or in general, then you get into not even just third down and long or third down in general. Like if you get into known passing down in distances or situations against this Jags defense, I just think it's such a toss up and so worrisome because to your point, and this goes back to last year against the Texans last year for the Bills and against the Ravens last year, their protection started to get gamed up when they got into known passing situations. And like you said, they're usually like a 3-man slide team. They're a huge 5-man protection team. For those who don't remember, Spencer Brown has one arm and they're playing the Texans in Houston, and they're still just running 5-man protection. Spencer Brown is out there one-on-one with Will Anderson having no outside arm. He can't move his right shoulder. Then they're still sticking with 5-man protection stuff. They're a big 5-man protection team. Joe Brady loves to get 5 out into the route distribution as much as physically possible. And he doesn't really want to do it from like, oh, okay, a chip and release. Like he doesn't want to do it out of the backfield or, do the McVay stuff from several years ago, which they still do now, where you kind of line up like a tight end hipped off on one side, a running back hipped off the other, and you both chip the ends and then release. He doesn't want that. He wants guys out into the route distribution early. Oh, what's funny, speaking, LaQuint Allen had one of those against Jared Verse against the Rams where he just blows them up crazy. Versus running off.
Butt, yeah.
Yes. He's running to offense's left, and Allen just gets under him and boop, dusts
There's
him.
one he has against Jets, against, I think it's Eric Watts, and he puts a full shoulder in him. Eric Watts like doubles over after.
Oh,
and
so good.
Look, if you're enjoyment purposes, like pre this game or even after this game, after the season, watch LaQuint Allen. That is chip help, pass protection, teach tape from a running back.
He is so good. He's one of the best, like pass protecting running backs in football. Like he's so good. And yeah, so the Bills don't really want to, Brady doesn't want to do the chip release stuff. Like he wants to use the running backs by design. He wants to get everybody out into the route distribution. So they do a lot of 5-man pass pro stuff. And there's so many coverage things that are coming at you. Like we talked about earlier from the Jags with the way they blitz. It's not just the pressure pass stuff where the Bills have been gamed up, but so like they'll be creative with the pressure pass from a Jags perspective. The Bills have the propensity to get gamed up, which is those aren't a good match. And then all the coverages on the back end and what they're doing. And Allen this year has been a bit inconsistent in setting the protections at times. For as good as he's been inconsistent. There's even times where it's worked out. I forget what game it was where one of them where he seals it with like they're at home too. I can't believe I can't remember which game. He seals it with the scramble on like 3rd and forever. He set the protection wrong. And he says it after the game. He's like, oh, I kind of thought I was going to get this, but I actually didn't. And I got this. And it's one of those like, oh, like, thank you for your candor, but also like, you set the protection wrong. Oh, it's the Cincinnati game.
Yeah.
I went and looked at the schedule. Yeah, it's like 3rd and forever. He thinks, I don't know. No, let me not quote because I'm not going to remember. But he making this up. He thinks he's going to get like cover 0. So he changes the running back's route. He changes the protection, and he does not get that. And I forget who comes clean off the left side of the line. And the defensive end almost freezes because he's like, why am I so free? Like, what's going on here? But Allen makes a miss and then runs for like 25 yards and ends the game. But he screwed up the protection. And but that's Josh Allen, right? He could screw that up, but then still be Josh Allen and be fine. I don't know if you have that margin for error in this game. And with how good Campanile has been with the designer stuff, with how good they are at understanding down and distance and situation, how they're able to vary up their blitz paths and packages, how they're able to vary up the coverages on the back end and the multitude of stuff they play on the back end, overall on the back end, but especially with the pressure stuff. Yeah, I don't want to say push as well because you said push. Oh man, I'm gonna break it down like this. I think it's advantage if it's coordinator versus coordinator. I think it's advantage Campanile over Brady. Okay, but I think Josh Allen in the run game balances it out enough that I might give us. I'm too superstitious to say what I'm going to say.
That's sort of where I know where you're going. And that's sort of where the biggest worry is if this becomes a Josh Allen variance game.
Yes.
I don't think the Jaguars want to play the Josh Allen variance game because as good as the Jaguars defense has been, one of the areas where they've been bad against tight ends. First of all, like they've allowed 8 touchdowns to tight ends this season. And I think a large part of it is because they ask so much of their linebackers when it comes to pass rush, when it comes to coverage. Sometimes they will just not carry a crosser. Sometimes they don't get the right amount of depth. Now, sometimes Devin Lloyd is just like everywhere, but there are times where they just don't get enough depth. And I think a large part of that is because they're hauling ass to get from the line of scrimmage to like 30 yards downfield. They ask a lot of those guys. So I think if there's opportunities for the Bills to attack, I think it's through the tight ends, which of course, but I also think that in this game, like you said, I think Campanile has the coaching and coordinating advantage, but I also worry that when the game starts, it just becomes the Josh Allen game. And as a Jaguars fan, that's sort of the big issue is how much variance are you willing to let Josh Allen play with? Because if you blitz him, you're leaning into that variance. And while there have been ups and downs this season, it's always that fear of he's going to hit you for a 50-yard play if you don't get him on the ground or don't get him to throw it out of bounds.
Fair. And I love your piece about the tight ends because, like, that's my last little piece with it is I think Kincaid should be good to go in this game. I know he's going to play, but, like, from a health standpoint, and it's not even as much on the linebackers, like, although, like, that's been a space like you talked about, like, but if I can get Kincaid matched up on, like, Eric Murray or Antonio Johnson, or if I can get him matched up on Wingard, like, I am taking Kincaid every single day of the week, and I'll even let him battle. I think he can get the drop on, like, Lloyd and Luakon, even though, like, they move really well. And I think that helps open up the passing game a little bit. That ties into the run game, which ties into the play action game. So yeah, I'm going Campanile over Brady, but I think I'm going Bills. Like that run game, Josh Allen piece, structure there. Oh, that's going to be. I really hope this lives up to the tape watch that I hope it's going to be, positively or negatively. Like I'm excited to watch this tape Sunday night or like Monday morning, and I really hope I enjoy it. Obviously, if the Bills lose, I'll enjoy it less, but either way. As we keep going here, the next topic, this one is a little close to home for some Bills fans. This is a player that Bills fans wanted to trade for come trade deadline time, and the Bills did not get him. For you, what has Jakobi Meyers meant to the Jaguars offense?
It has been quite simple. He is an adult when it comes to running over the middle of the field. The Jaguars, before Jakobi Meyers, and everybody was sort of like, does Liam Cohen hate Trevor Lawrence? Trevor Lawrence is the bust, like this, that, and the other. If you go and watch them play, they just were dropping passes everywhere, like especially over the middle of the field. You had the whole hospital ball great debate of like week 3.
Oh my God.
Was Trevor Lawrence throwing hospital balls? It's like, no, Brian Thomas Jr. just ran the route at the wrong depth. So I think what Jakobi Meyers has done is he has been the connective tissue for this Jaguars offense. He has been, like every great basketball offense needs a glue guy, someone who's not necessarily like a superstar, but he blends everything else that everybody does together. So now with Jakobi Meyers on the field, Brian Thomas Jr.'s average depth of target is like 15 yards. Like he is not doing a lot of the stuff that he was asked to before Jakobi Meyers because they needed somebody to do that over the middle stuff. Yep. But now Brian Thomas Jr. is exclusively like downfield explosives. We're hunting big game. If Brian Thomas Jr. is running downfield, Parker Washington slots into a better role. You have Brenton Strange healthy and playing as the check down. They'll get Tim Patrick involved, but really Jakobi Meyers has just been the connector for everybody. And Trevor Lawrence trusts him so much in that area. Some of the dig routes he's hit since Jakobi has come over have been in like heat checks, straight up heat checks. There was one against the Chargers where he's running a backside dig and Trevor doesn't look anywhere else. Like he hammers this ball. So I think that he just offers like being an adult in the room and being sort of that in-between guy that the offense really needs.
I think that's so well said. And the only thing I'll add with it is like the inside-outside versatility he gives. Like you can do so much. Like you could put him in the slot and let BTJ stay outside. Like you can put him on the same side as Parker Washington and let BTJ sit on the backside. Like you can put him in motion. You can put Parker Washington in motion. Like he just, like you said, like he just fits so well. And I hate to oversimplify it, but like he just lets Brian Thomas Jr. go be good at the stuff that Brian Thomas Jr. is good at. He lets Parker Washington be Parker Washington, and then he can be a guy who can wear a bunch of hats and do a bunch of stuff in a bunch of good ways, and the reliability on top of it. And we talked about his run blocking earlier. Yeah, I think he's been the glue guy, phrase that you mentioned, the connective tissue. That's such a good way to verbalize it and soundbite it, and I'm sure a lot of people are upset at that in the chat. I obviously, like, you watch so much Jags tape. I watched a bit, and that's kind of where I landed, but I really wanted to ask you that because there were other people in the chat earlier who were like, I can't believe the Jags got Jakobi Meyers and we have to play him in this game. Like, I hate it. That's just, yeah, so many people wanted Meyers, myself included, but it was not meant to be. All right, our last two segments, JP, as we start to wind down here, and then we'll get you out. The matchup that you are watching for the most. It could be player on player. It could be large scale. It could be granular and small scale. What is the matchup you are watching for the most?
So I have two. One is when the Bills have the ball, and the other is when the Jaguars have the ball. When the Bills have the ball, it is the specific time when Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker are lined up next to each other. Okay. And they only do it on obvious, like, third downs. They've started to lean into it later on in the season. Trayvon Walker has been literally walking guys back at guard when he's lined up over the guard, which is very funny considering all the pre-draft stuff of like, oh, he should play defensive tackle, or like, oh, he's basically like a 4-eye at 275
all
pounds.
He is speed to power. He doesn't have any moves. He can't. How's he
like, yeah, that's like, who knew that getting the guy over the guard who was strong as hell would actually work. But opposite of that is where I think some of the issues start to rise. I think for that backside edge, whether it's BJ Green, undrafted rookie who's played well, Danny Strigow, undrafted rookie who's played well, Dennis Gardeck, who has been incredible. Like, he's been awesome. He's one of my favorite players on the defense. Whether it's any of those guys, do you line them up to the side that Josh Allen likes to scramble? Are you trying to funnel them? Are you trying to funnel him back into that? Or how does the Bills offensive line sort out these protections, these pressure looks that they're going to give them? And how are they going to sort out Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker on the same side? When we go to the Jaguars side of the ball, or when Jaguars have the ball, it's Brian Thomas Jr. against whoever's playing corner.
Oh, okay.
And it's very dependent on if Christian Benford travels. Because Christian Benford has traveled with a lot of wide receiver ones. Yes. The question is who he travels with. I think he's more likely to travel with Jakobi Meyers because of how much he just gets targeted if he does travel. Or do you leave him on a side? If they leave him on a side, I do wonder if it's Tre'Davious White or if it's Dane Jackson. I think the Jaguars are going to take shots downfield at them with Brian Thomas Jr. You want to try and force them to defend downfield. And the problem, and why I was so excited for this matchup, and we talked about pre-show, was Maxwell Hairston was the one defensive back that the Bills had that could run with Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah. Like, he was the one guy who was enough of an athlete to where, like, you can make those 50-50 passes a little bit more difficult.
Dare to dream.
Yeah, but now I'm sort of like, man, I'm throwing the go ball. I'm throwing the double move. Let's see how fast Tre'Davious White is at this stage. Let's see how fast Dane Jackson is. Can they run with this Jaguars receiver core? So I'm curious if Jacksonville is going to be the, like, screw it, we're gonna go for, if you're going high variance, we're going variance too, and we're gonna launch it. Or is this going to be we're going to try and control the ball, control the game? I also do think it's sort of low-key dependent on who wins the coin toss and who gets the ball first, because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking if the Jaguars win the toss, they should take the ball first. And go score. If you score, you force them on the back foot.
Yes.
And now you're ahead. But you also worry about, like, Josh Allen supernova comeback. So it's like you want to go up, but you don't want to go up too much.
Fair.
But there's so many things, but those are the two matchups I'm really excited for.
I love that. And I love that piece of the ed too, because it's like you want to get up on the Bills to force them away from the run game and have to rely on pure in structure, known passing situations, because that's not what they're built to do. But then doing that, you also invite the Josh Allen variance. And so it could really work out for you, or it could swing the other way. And all of a sudden he puts up 40 because he throws for 320 yards, rushes for 60 and puts up 5 tutties himself. I like that so much. That ties in a bit towards my matchup that I'm watching for the most. It's on both sides of the ball, and it's related to blitzing. Specifically when the Jags blitz, I've alluded to it a bit before. The Jaguars on the season when blitzing, they're 4th in EPA per pass. They're 1st in takeaways with 11. They're 7th in pass rush get off because they got dudes who can hunt, but they're only 17th in pressure rate. And then they're 30th in sack rate at 4.8%. So they have some designs and things, but when they blitz, it's not necessarily them getting home or getting a ton of like pressure, overwhelming pressure. When they blitz, they create negative plays for the offense with how they tie in the paths with the multiple coverages and everything behind it. They just essentially they throw a lot at you and try to make you beat them. And it's like, okay, you know, if you can read this, go ahead. The first blitz play that I clipped for them was a sack against the Seahawks earlier in the year. And Darnold has Torrey Horton open right away. Like they motion into a 3-by-1. Cooper Kupp goes across the field. Torrey Horton is open right away. Darnold doesn't see him because he's looking somewhere else. And then by the time his eyes could get there, he gets sacked. And I picked that play on purpose because Allen has had issue setting the protection, but also getting to his hots and knowing who's hot and getting like who's set, who's doing what. And so the Jags can be had, but it's very much like, hey, yeah, you can get us, but we think we're going to get you before you can get us. So who wins there? And then on the other side, it's also the Bills and their blitzing. I alluded to this earlier in the episode in the intro. I'm going to do a video breakdown, offline breakdown, and put it up later in the week, probably Thursday. The Buffalo Bills defense in the second half when blitzing, okay? So only in the second half. Overall, this isn't just against the pass. They're 7th in EPA per play. They're 3rd in success rate allowed at 29.7%. They're 3rd in plays with positive EPA allowed at 37.7%. They're 1st in sack rate at 13.4. They're 3rd in pressure rate at 58.5%. They're 2nd in sack plus QB hit rate at 27%. And they're 1st in 3rd down conversion rate allowed at 27.3. When the Bills get in the second half, and part of it is like, okay, we figured things out, or it's like, we're behind. We got to do some stuff. They start dialing up really creative pressures. They've got good sims. They've got good creepers. They've got good 5- and 6-man stuff. They'll pair it with some man coverage and different, odd mirror and who's doing what. They do a really good job tying the front with the back and with their blitzes. But they've really done it in the second half. They've been decent overall as a blitzing team, but the second half is when they dial it up, turn it on. I wonder if they lead with that. Do they start some of that early in the game? Do they save it and keep it in the holster for the second half? Either way, the matchup I'm watching for the most is both sides of the ball. When these defenses blitz, who gets the offense more? How do they get them? Which quarterback is able to diagnose, take advantage, all that stuff? That's the big one for me. JP, last one. We're at 8:15. I'm going to get you out. I'm a man of my word. The most important thing that will decide this game between Bills and Jags is what for you?
It starts up front on both sides of the ball. We alluded to it the entire game, the entire podcast. It is going to be about if the Bills offense can create rushing lanes, if both sides honestly lean into their QB's run threat with his legs, because I think Trevor as a scrambler, when you talked about the blitzing, I thought of Trevor Lawrence as a scrambler and how much the Bills will play odd mirror. And that was something that sort of frustrated Drake May the second time around when they made the comeback. Is if they're going to spy, how are you going to beat man coverage?
Yep.
Who's going to be the one that gets open? So I think it's about both sides of the line for both teams. Whoever wins at the line of scrimmage is going to win this game, which is obviously like, that's football 101. But I think it's super important in this game because the Bills, they are like the monsters of game flow. If they can dictate the game flow, they're probably going to win. But if you can force them onto the back foot, whether it's those high variance turnovers that the Jaguars will get when they blitz, it's not just about like getting the quarterback on the ground. They show it to you and then they drop it and force you to throw hot when you think when you don't have to. And if Josh Allen's going to throw hot, the biggest thing with Allen is I don't want to say he's necessarily a hot thrower. He doesn't really throw hot a lot. What he does is he buys time. And that's where the Jaguars have been hit the most when they blitz is if they buy time against this blitz, you got to bring them down because that leads to the explosives because now everybody's all out of place because you thought they were going to throw hot. So if Josh Allen starts buying time on these blitzes, how do the Jags defend it? But yeah, I'm thinking line of scrimmage. You have to match the Bills' physicality.
I have an underlying one similar to kind of one of the points you made there. The Bills have been so reliant on yards after catch for their pass game, and the Jags are a really good tackling team. like they against the run and the pass. Like they don't miss tackles. They're athletic. They're fast. How does that factor in with the Bills, throwing short, throwing underneath, trying to get the yak? That's an underlying one for me. But my main one ties in exactly what you said. I wrote, whoever can run the ball wins this game. And I wrote, if the Bills can't run the ball, they're dead. And then I said, if the Jags can't run the ball, then the Bills pass defense can kind of flow a little bit. But either way, it ties so, and not just because, I cover the Bills, like you said, game script, game flow matters tremendously to this Bills team. And the run game on both sides is what decides the game flow for the Bills. If they can run the ball offensively, and if they can't stop it defensively, based on how that goes, that kills their game script. It changes how they operate completely, 1,000% in line. All right. I was only 3 minutes over. I was so close. I'm going to shut up. JP, everybody should know who you are, just in case they don't. Tell them who you are, what you do, where they can find you, all that stuff.
Of course, you can find me at CBS Sports Analyst for Pushing the Pile. That is a podcast I co-host. I am also writing for CBS Sports. I'm going to come out with a story with one reason why every team can win the Super Bowl. One reason, why every team can't win the Super Bowl. And then if you just see me on TV tomorrow, I am going to be doing some Bills Jaguars talk on CBS Sports. CBS Sports HQ or CBS Sports Network. So be on the lookout for that. But follow me on social media, see what I'm doing, and see where I'm going.
Big time TV man, taking time out of his Tuesday night to speak with the little people here and talk some ball. But sincerely, you're awesome. I appreciate the hell out of you. You're nothing but onwards and upwards. You're a good dude. You know your stuff. I appreciate you. Go do your other stuff you got to do. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. I will see you on the Twitterverse and the Blue Skyverse. I love you. You're awesome. Enjoy the rest of your night. I appreciate the hell out of you.
See ya.
Later. Mr. JP Acosta, dude is absolutely awesome. I was so close to being on time. I also knew in my back pocket, I kind of had until 8:20. I committed to 8:15, so that's still on me. I'm still a liar at this point, but I committed to the 8:15, but I knew I had 8:20 in my back pocket and in the holster, so I knew we could kind of buy some time a little bit. But JP's awesome. Love that conversation. And I think you can kind of see, I'll throw up the last banner here, which was the most important thing. We'll decide the game just because it looks naked down there and it throws me off. Man, there's just so many avenues. Oh, I see this comment here from James who says, who wins, Miami or Ole Miss? Yeah, I'm far too superstitious. Even as a Hurricanes fan, I'm far too superstitious to even comment. I will say I did call them beating Texas A&M and Ohio State. I just felt it. I'm not acknowledging anything else, though. This is Chambliss is awesome, man, and Ole Miss has some dudes. Also, part of me kind of, I'm 1,000% rooting for Miami, but Ole Miss got done so dirty by Lane Kiffin that I'm kind of like, you know what? They deserve something for their dudes. But yeah, I'm far too superstitious and nervous to say who's going to win that game between Miami and Ole Miss. But I appreciate you acknowledging my Miami Hurricane fandom. And I'm extremely nervous for it, as I have been for all of those previous answers. Oh, you said you wanted JP's answer. Oh, I'm sorry. Then I didn't mean to waste your time, James. So sorry. I gave you my answer. I'll just be quiet on that. Fair enough. Teach their own. Yeah, this game between Bills, Jags, man, there's so many ways and avenues it could go positively or negatively for the Bills and for the Jags. I think it's a really good matchup. And so much of it, I don't want to downplay the Bills defense versus the Jags offense. That one to me is kind of less exciting because I think so much of it is, can the Jags run the ball? Can the Jags not run the ball? The Jags have been meh as a rushing team. The Bills have been bad as a run defense. Like which one of those? It's like the movable force versus the stop, or like the movable object versus the stoppable force. Like they're both bad. So which one gives a little bit, but it's not in an exciting way. The other side of the ball is just so schematically enticing. And as I alluded to in the beginning of this episode, I had Cody Alexander on last week and we talked like NFL defensive meta and what current trends are in the league and where defenses are and where they're going and why they are where they are and why they're going where they're going. We talked about that through a Bills lens and how the Bills are built and how the Bills play and how they are and aren't built for modern football. And we found our way talking about the Jags defense. And so much is the notion and the idea. Oh, hold on. I want to get Arthur. Arthur says, yeah, but who could have ever expected Lane Kiffin to bail on Ole Miss? Hard to have sympathy for someone who gets what they buy. Fair, but I'm talking from a player's perspective. Like the university is a separate thing, but like the players, you're signing up to play for Lane Kiffin. You're signing up to play for that team. Like he's leaving the players like high and dry to a degree. I understand that kind of buyer beware as a university. He'll probably end up doing the same thing to LSU at some point. But it's more just like for the players. And granted, you could say the players should have some buyer beware too, in terms of playing for a guy like Lane Kiffin. But yeah, for me, it's more just like kind of on the player side. But I feel you on that. That is a fair point. And but yeah, on that Jags defense versus Bills offense, the Jags, Jags defense, in speaking with Cody last week, I said it on the show, like I was watching them sporadically. I was watching for other offenses, but I'd see the Jags defense and I'd make a note every time, like, I got to watch more Jags defense tape. I got to watch more Jags defense tape. And after speaking with Cody last week, the back end of last week, I just dove into a bunch of Jags tape. And then lo and behold, the Bills are playing the Jags. I dove into more Jags tape yesterday and today, and will be for the entirety of the rest of this week. Get at my Twitter at pro__ant, or get at me on Blue Sky at proant. No underscores there, just PROANT. I got a ton of Jags tape breakdown stuff, and what means what, advanced metrics, all these things. It's just such a fun matchup because of what the Jags are schematically. And again, I keep saying this, but I said it last week with Cody, and Cody said it so well. Like they're an amalgamation of a multitude of philosophies and a multitude of coaching trees. And Anthony Campanile, their defensive coordinator, wields all of those potential things and all of those philosophies and schools of thought and trees of teaching. He wields all of them like weapons and is able to dip into each of the buckets and play a bunch of different things from all of those buckets. And it's not one of those like, oh, well, they're doing too much and it's no good. They do all these things and they do them all at a competent level. They're good at all these things. And he knows when to throw them out situationally. He knows what to lean into based on what opponent. He just calls a good game. He's designed a good defense. They have some good horses on that side of the ball. It's just fun to see like how they play football defensively. And then you tie it into the Bills offense. And we know the struggles at this point. Like, I'm not going to get into it more. We know what the receiver room is. We know kind of what Joe Brady is. And this offense is, can they run the ball? Yes. If they can, they're probably good. If they can't run the ball, they're probably dead unless Josh Allen just goes Super Saiyan and makes a whole bunch of high variance plays happen and you're good. I don't know if this is the defense you can do that against. They've got athletes. They're well coached and they're so multiple. This is not the type of defense where if you are a team coaching Josh Allen, this isn't the type of defense where you want Allen to have to put it all on his back. You know, if he has to and it works, awesome. Or if he has to, it is what it is. That's, the cards you were dealt. This isn't that type of defense that you want to do this with. Like an attack-minded, multiple defense like this, it's so mentally taxing. It's not just the physical. It's not just they've got guys with length and juice and size and physicality. It's the mental side of it. Like this is not the game. This is not the defense where you want Josh Allen to have to do so much between the ears and physically. That's a hard way to live. Can it happen? Sure. Has Allen done it before? Yes. But that's a really hard way to live. Doesn't mean you can't live, but it's just a really hard way to live. And this is not the type of defense really that I kind of want to see that happen with. And again, like JP alluded to, some of the coverages and the things they play and how they use their linebackers, you can get into the Jags defense a little bit. You can kind of get into the middle of the field and attack them a bit. You can create some matchup advantages. Dalton Kincaid's going to be a huge part of that. But this defense is just so good, blending these multitude of schemes like we talked about last week on the show. They're good at generating turnovers. It's not by accident. It's not like, oh, the tip ball and went straight into the air and they got it. Like they know how to read quarterbacks. They know how to read situations. They're well prepared. They play the sticks. They play the down and distances. They also like bait quarterbacks into stuff. Like they're really good. Jordan Lewis had a good interception, I think early in the year against Houston. Yeah, I believe against Houston. They bring a little fire zone. It's 3 deep, 3 under, and he's the outside man into the boundary underneath, and he's covered his man, but he knows that there's a little corner out coming behind him, and so you can see him just kind of sitting and waiting and hoping Stroud tries to put it over him, and Stroud does, and Lewis just breaks on it immediately, keeps dropping, jumps up, picks it. Like, they are a well-coached unit. They are a well-schemed unit, and they know how to attack you and stress you. So if this is a win for the Bills in this game, they earned it. That if the Bills win this game, that means they did well setting protections. That means they did a good job pre and post snap. That's the biggest thing that I can kind of use to sum up the matchup on that side of the ball and what this Jags defense is. They do such a good job of changing the pre to post snap picture for quarterbacks up front and on the back end. And that's a testament to Campanile, the multiple schemes of influence that he brings, the multiple coaching stops he's had, and how he's kind of blended all of this together into this well-coached, well-designed amalgamation. No. Comment here, like making it sound like we have no chance. No, the Bills definitely have a chance. I just really appreciate and respect what this Jags defense does. And if you beat them, it's because you beat them. I know that may sound stupid, but they're going to give you opportunities with how they play and how they attack. You have to go take it. Like I said, they play a style that makes you have to beat them. They're either going to beat you or you're going to beat them, and the Bills have to take it. And the way they take it is they have to run the football, which is possible. They have to be proper pre-snap in setting their protections, which is possible. And then post-snap, Allen has to be right where his eyes go, where he's reading, what he thought initially pre-snap. Does that match post-snap? And we kind of go from there. The Bills definitely have a chance. This is not like, oh, Bills are screwed. They're one and done. This is a tough matchup, but I think you're going to get a lot of tough matchups for the Bills just with how they're built. But this game is 1,000% winnable for the Bills. It's not gone in any way, shape, or form. It's just going to be tough. The Jags make you earn it. They're not really going to beat themselves. The only way they're going to beat themselves is if you get like one of those bad Trevor Lawrence games where he's missing a ton of throws, he's airmailing stuff, he's dirt and stuff, or if he makes some poor decisions. But that's as close as you're going to get. They're, again, defensively, they're well coached, they tackle well, they're schemed well, they're called well by Campanile, and they're multiple. Like, it's a hard unit to beat, but they can be had. It starts with running the ball. It starts with good decisions from Josh Allen. As multiple people have said in the chat, it starts with no turnovers, no interceptions. Don't feed into that Jags defense. Don't get baited in that stuff. This is a game where Josh Allen really does have to kind of take what is being given to him. He has to stay on schedule. I think a good plan or a good victory for the Bills offense in this game is as a non-sexy game. You just stay on schedule. Hey, it's first down. Jackson Hollis is open in the flat. Take it. Even if it's only 3 yards, cool. Take it for 2nd and 7. That's it. Just keep going with that stuff. Oh, it's 2nd and 7. A 4-yard completion's available. Cool. Take it. Make it 3rd and 3. Stay on schedule. Run the football. Play action. Take what's available to you in the underneath and the intermediate. If something deep opens up, which is possible, they can be had deep. They play match coverage stuff. They will play various, forms of quarters. So they are that team where you can get that safety to nail down on a dig and you can try and hit them over the top. Or if you catch them in a blitz and you gum it up, there are gaps in the seams. You can hit them over the top. Shot plays will be available. I think it's important the Bills try and test the cage a little bit, poke and prod a little bit early on, try and hit one of those, put that in the back of the Jags' mind that, hey, we can hit that or we will try to hit that. But a lot of this game, it's staying on schedule. Do not be in 2nd and 10. Do not be in 3rd and 6 or 7 or 8 or 9. Stay in 2nd and 7, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5 at that. Protect the football, as a lot of you have said. Don't turn it over. Stay on schedule. Take what the Jags defense gives you. Do not get accelerated by what they do. They're going to try and accelerate you. They're going to try and make you make a throw into a window you should not make so they can pick it off. They're going to make you think something's there and it's not. And that's if you also set the protection right and they don't game it up and get at you. You gotta, as Charles says, taking the profits has been the passing, has to be the passing plan every week. No turnovers, start fast, Bills script all day. That's it. Take the profit, take the easy stuff, a non-sexy win is still a win. I don't care if the Bills score 31 points and Allen completes, 4 20-yard plus bombs, or if they score 31 points and Allen never throws the ball past 8 yards. It's playoff time, whatever gets it done. But this is the defense where you stay on schedule, you take what they give you, you stay on schedule, you take what they give you. Obviously, if they can run the ball, that helps a ton because they're going to need to run the football on this one. But Jags are a really fun defense, and offensively, yeah, Trevor Lawrence is playing some good ball. They're well built from a receiver standpoint. The offensive line is questionable now at this point with just some of the injuries, and even when they're completely healthy, I don't think this is an offensive line that's overly dominant or strong, but I also don't think the Bills' defensive line is overly dominant or overly strong. So I would probably still give the edge to the Bills' defensive line. But we'll see it. I really do think a lot of that game is going to come on that side of the ball. Is going to come down to like if Trevor Lawrence is on and if the Jags can run the football. So much opens up and goes from there. David, as you said in the chat, you probably covered this, but Kincaid should have a big day. Yes. Kincaid should be well, it depends on if they can hit some chunks to him, but Kincaid should be a 8 catches, 110 yards, 8 catches, 75 yards, something like that. It depends on like how he gets used. He should be close to double-digit catches, and he should get opportunities in the underneath and the intermediate. That's really where you have to work. We're going to see some of the RPO package plays, runs with a pass tag screen type of stuff. What's just going to be tough against the Jags is they do a good job covering down. They do a good job tackling. They do a good job taking on blocks. So I don't know how necessarily that's going to work. Shakir is awesome with the ball in his hands and run after catch. The Jags, again, are a good tackling team. I don't think it's just the game where it's like, yeah, let's just spit it out to Shakir and let him try and break 2 or 3 tackles and get 15 yards. It's going to be tough. So for me, I'm leaning into heavy personnel. If I'm the Bills in this game, give me more Reggie Gilliam. Give me more Jackson Hawes. Give me Gilliam and Hawes on the field at the same time. Give me 12. Give me 13 personnel to answer you there, Arthur. Give me 12. Give me 13. Give me 21. Give me 22. Give me fuel. Give me fire. Give me that which I desire. Heavy personnel. Mash, play action, mash, and just rinse and repeat with that formula and stay on schedule, stay ahead of the sticks. Unsexy type of game plan. I don't think there's going to be a lot of fireworks against this Jags defense, given how the Bills are built offensively. If it's fireworks, it's because Cook is busting off some explosive runs or Allen is making some plays with his legs. Again, they can be had if you catch them in the right blitz and you gum it up and you wad it up from a rush standpoint. There's things to be had in coverage, but I just don't know if the Bills can get there or if I want to kind of play that game and roll the dice against them. But this is going to be a really fun matchup, really fun game. Hope you folks enjoyed this episode. As I mentioned earlier, I am going to be dropping a breakdown later this week, film breakdown here on Disguise Coverage. I'm going to record it offline and upload it probably sometime Thursday, maybe Friday. Breaking down a lot of cool stuff that the Bills defense has been doing from a blitz standpoint. I referenced those numbers earlier with how good they are in the second half when they're blitzing and how much of a game changer it is for them. I'm going to show and talk about a bunch of those pieces, what they're doing, how they're doing it, why it's working, and why it's going to be so crucial for them to kind of wield that this postseason in order to have success en route to a potential Super Bowl. If pizza had a Super Bowl, One Pie Pizza would be playing in it. And I say that, and I say that they are the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. And I don't just say that because they sponsor the show. They sponsor the show because I truly believe they are the best pizza in Buffalo, in Western New York. If you don't believe me, go try some. One Pie Pizza, sweet sauce pie, cup of char pepperoni, homemade blue cheese, breakfast pizzas, a catering division called Elevated Catering of Buffalo, where they have a ton of different great dishes, chicken and rice dishes, and mac and cheese and salad. Actually, yeah, some shrimp stuff too. Like they just do so many things with that catering division, but the pizza, as always, spot on. You can get some of the pizza mixed in with the catering. I've had them do multiple events, and it's been awesome every time. You might be a little stressed, going into this Bills week, or, start of the new year, maybe before you get into your New Year's resolutions, get some pizza, relax, enjoy football, take a breather, take it all in. Or maybe your New Year's resolution is to eat more pizza. If it is, you need to get yourself some One Pie Pizza. Get down there, tell them that Disguise Coverage and Anthony sent you. Get yourself some pizza. And maybe even get the pizza that's named after the show and named after the brand. That pizza's great, but all their pizza is great. Go down, get yourself some One Pie Pizza. They're really good people making really good food. As I say every week, we just got off the Toys for Tots drive. They partner with the SPCA. They partner with the Alzheimer's Foundation, partner with Roswell to knock out cancer. Nice Patton. I like that. Well done, Patton. Well done, Patton. Yeah, best in Buffalo. Get yourself some pizza. I will be calming my nerves for this week by enjoying some pizza. I'm just trying to figure out if I'm going to get it Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I'm probably not going to want to leave the house on Sunday. So maybe Saturday afternoon or maybe Friday night. I'm undecided. But get yourself some One Pie Pizza. You will not be disappointed. I sincerely promise you that. Yeah. Appreciate you, James. James saying, go Canes. Nice hat, by the way. Thank you very much. I'm very proud of this Sabres hat. Found it at the Buffalo store during the holidays. I have to finish curving it. It's not completely broken in from a curve standpoint, but it's in a good spot. But yeah, Goat Head's awesome, and I like this color scheme. It was unique. I thought it was cool. So yeah, I got it. Or Padden says, or all 3 days. That's right. Why not get One Pie Pizza all 3 days? Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Porque no los tres. That's fair. I'm assuming you meant Porque and not Torque, but that's fair. Padden, you're awesome. I appreciate you. Yeah, as Joey says, I ain't going to lie, JP had me scared of all the Jags, but let's go Bills. It's always let's go Bills. And again, it's playoff time. Even the worst teams, I keep moving too much and getting out of focus. Even the worst teams still kind of have something they can do in the playoffs, unless maybe kind of you're the Panthers or maybe kind of the Steelers. But there's no real quote unquote easy matchups in the playoffs, right? Some are a little harder than others. Some are a little easier than others. It's just a matter of matchups. And this matchup is a little tough for the Bills, but also good for them in some ways. And we'll just see who blinks first, who gets who. My biggest thing too, that, and I talked about it a little bit. I really need the Bills defense to play on the front foot. I need them to take it to the Jags. I need to see the man coverage, the press, the blitzing, the run blitzes, the pass blitzes, some of the run stunts and all that. Not too much because it's so risk reward. But I don't think this is one where they can sit back and kind of just, play, as Cody talked about last week, play sit and get. I don't think that's the type of defense they can play this week or in the future for the playoffs. We've seen them get bounced playing that style. I don't think that's the way they can go. They got to play on the front foot and be a little more attack-minded in their philosophy and in their approach and in their game planning and in their play calling. And that's part of the reason why I want to break down the blitzes on tape later in this week. Yeah, good times. I hope you folks enjoyed. That's very nice, Andrew. I appreciate the kind words with you about me in the show. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to throw up the banner. This is Toodles, folks, as we are going to start to say goodbye. I sincerely hope you folks enjoyed this episode. I messaged JP as soon as I knew that it was Bills, Jags, and locked in. I thought, who better? He's a huge Jags fan, and he's objective, and he covers the league. He covers the NFL league-wide, and he knows ball, but he also watches this team in and out every week, so I thought he was an awesome guy to have on the show. He's one of my favorites. If you have not checked out his work, go check him out. I hope you folks enjoyed this episode and this conversation. Hope you folks enjoy the Blitz breakdown I put out later in the week. I hope you folks enjoyed the conversation I had with Cody Alexander last week. If you have not checked out last week's episode, I know it was offline and I uploaded it at a different time on that Tuesday. Go check out that episode with Cody Alexander for a really good conversation on the Jags defense. He and I spoke towards the end of the episode on the Jags and just overall how NFL defenses are, what the current meta and trends are offensively, defensively, how the Bills defense fits or doesn't into that. A really high level conversation with one of the best out there. So I had Cody on last week. Go check that out. And I hope you folks enjoyed this episode. Hope you folks are having a good start to the new year. Hope you had a good holiday. And thank you very much to everyone who tuned in live for this episode or watched post live, listened post live. If you're still here watching live and you have not already dropped a like on this video, if you're able to, please, 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 and thank you, drop a like on this video. Likes are the lifeblood of these streams. So if you enjoyed this episode, you're enjoying this content, please, 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 and thank you, drop a like on this video here on YouTube. Turn on notifications. for the Disguise Coverage playlist here on YouTube. If you're listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, that's cool too. Please rate, review, and subscribe on whatever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on. Tell your family and friends and loved ones about this show if you enjoyed it. If you hated this show or you hate me, tell your enemies and try and make them watch this show in order to try and ruin their day or night. I appreciate you folks. Thank you to everyone who tuned in live. Thank you to anyone who listened or watched post live. If you are going to the game this weekend, be safe. Have fun. Travel safe. Safe travels. Enjoy Jacksonville. Enjoy the weather down there. And regardless of where you are or what you're doing, I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. I will see you when I see you. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.